Now I am going to continue your topic integration of princely estates. British India was divided into two parts. First, the British India provinces and the princely estates. The British Indian provinces were directly under the control of the British government. On the other hand, several large and small estates ruled by princes called the princely estates enjoyed some form of control over their internal affairs as long as they accepted British supremacy. This was called paramountcy or suzerainty of the British Crown. Princely estates covered one-third of the land area of the British Indian Empire, and 1 out of 4 Indians lived under princely rule. The problem: just before independence, it was announced by the British that with the end of their rule over India, paramountcy, sarvochata of the British Crown over princely estate would also lapse. This meant that all these estates, as many as 565 in all, would become legally independent. The British government took the view that all these states were free to join either India or Pakistan or remain independent if they so wished. यानी सर्कुलर था कि ये या तो स्वतंत्र भी रह सकते थे या अगर इच्छा है तो भारत के अंदर भी जा सकते थे, पाकिस्तान के अंदर भी जा सकते थे। ये एक बहुत बड़ा समस्या रहा भारत के लिए। This decision was left not to the people but to the princely rulers of these states. This was a very serious problem and could threaten the very existence of a united India. The problems started very soon. First of all, the ruler of Travancore announced that the state had decided on independence. The Nizam of Hyderabad made a similar announcement the next day. Rulers like the Nawab of Bhopal were averse to joining the Constituent Assembly. This response of the rulers of the princely estates meant that after independence there was a very real possibility that India would get further divided into a number of small countries. The prospects of democracy for the people in these states also looked bleak. This was a strange situation. Since the Indian independence was aimed at unity, self-determination as well as democracy, in most of these princely estates, governments were run in a non-democratic manner, and the rulers were unwilling to give democratic rights to their populations. Now, we are going to know about what approaches government was adopted for the princely estates. Sardar Patel was India's deputy prime minister and the home minister during the crucial period immediately following independence. He played a historic role in negotiating with the rulers of princely estates firmly but diplomatically and bringing most of them into the Indian Union. The government approach was guided by 3 considerations. Firstly, the people of most of the princely estates clearly wanted to become part of the Indian Union. Secondly, the government was prepared to the flexible in giving autonomy to some regions. Thirdly, in the backdrop of partition, which brought into focus the contest over demarcation of territory, the integration and consolidation of the territorial boundaries of the nation had assumed supreme importance. The rulers of most of the states signed a document called the Instrument of Accession, which meant that their state agreed to become a part of the Union of India. Accession of the princely estates of Junagadh, Hyderabad, Kashmir, and Manipur proved more difficult than the rest. Now we are going to know about the case study of Hyderabad and Manipur. Hyderabad, the largest of the princely estates, was surrounded entirely by Indian territory. Some parts of the old Hyderabad estate was today parts of Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. Its ruler carried the title Nizam, and he was one of the world's richest men. The Nizam wanted an independent state for Hyderabad. He entered into what was called the Standstill Agreement with India in November 1947. For a year while negotiations with the Indian government were going on. In the meantime, a movement of the people of Hyderabad state against the Nizam's rule gathered force. The peasantry in the Telangana region, in particular, was the victim of Nizam's oppressive rule and rose against him. Bombmen, who had seen the worst of the operation, joined the movement in large numbers. Hyderabad town was the nerve center of this movement. The Communists and the Hyderabad Congress were in the forefront of the movement. Nizam responded by unleashing a paramilitary force known as Rajakars on the people. The atrocities and communal nature of the Rajakars knew no bounds. They murdered, raped, looted, maimed many people, especially targeting particularly the non-Muslims. The central government had to order the army to tackle the situation. In September 1948, Indian Army moved in to control the Nizam's forces. After a few days of intermittent fighting, the Nizam surrendered. This led to Hyderabad accession to India. Manipur. A few days before independence, the Maharaja of Manipur, Bodhchandra Singha, signed the Instrument of Accession with the Indian government on the assurance that the internal autonomy of Manipur would be maintained. Under the pressure of public opinion, the Maharaja held elections in Manipur in June 1948, and the state became a constitutional monarchy. Thus, Manipur was the first part of India to hold an election based on universal adult franchise. In the Legislative Assembly of Manipur, there were sharp differences over the question of merger of Manipur with India. While the state Congress wanted the merger, other political parties were opposed to this. The government of India succeeded in pressurizing the Maharaja into signing a merger agreement in September 1949. Without consulting the properly called Legislative Assembly of Manipur. This caused a lot of anger and resentment in Manipur. The repercussions of which are still being felt. In my next topic, I will provide you information about the reorganization of states